Top 5 quarterbacks in 2022 that happen to come out of this rookie class. Who are they? How do they rank? And who's going to make the big difference today on Locked On NFL Draft?
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, former NFL and NFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Tracy, at Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter. And you can follow me on Twitter as well, at Eric_Crocker. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day, and also tell you that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's get into it. And, we're not done with this class just yet. We want to talk about the best situation for guys, kind of list out our top 5 guys. This was an exercise I did in 2021, maybe, that NFL draft, 2020 NFL draft. So what I did is, I had my rankings of 1 through 20 receivers. And then I kind of went back after the draft and picked out the guys that I felt were in the top 5 best situations. So, my number one receiver from that class, off of just talent and ability alone, was actually not my number one receiver when I re-ranked guys based on their landing spots. All right. So I thought like T. Higgins out of that class, like, oh, he's in a great landing spot for him, playing with his quarterback that's going to trust him, put the ball out there. And T. Higgins has just about been a back-to-back 1,000-yard receiver. So he's been solid. Also, Chase Claypool, a guy who I was not very high on, but once he went to Pittsburgh, I'm like, oh, man, with what Ben Roethlisberger kind of still was at that time, I'm like, this will be a great situation for a young receiver. So just based on situations, a guy can be viewed a lot different. And we wanted to kind of dive into this quarterback class with guys that, whether it's Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Desmond Ritter, Pickett, Sam Howell, Bailey Zappi, some of these guys who are actually drafted into situations that are more ideal for them. So my guy, still, if we're talking about the best landing spot, my quarterback, my QB1 in this class was definitely Malik Willis. But if we're going off of who I think is set up for the most success, I have to start with Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. All right, this is a guy who is out of Pittsburgh, drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's in a terrific situation in the sense of, one, organizational stability. All right, you are talking about one of the most functional, well-ran organizations. As long as I can remember, they've only had 2 head coaches. All right,
right.
Bill Cowher.
Remember him? Yeah.
And he got a strong chin. And Mike Tomlin, that's it. In that same span, I've probably seen about 15 different head coaches for the San Francisco 49ers. All right, so if we're just talking about stability and how much that means in the organization, the Steelers definitely have that down. And then you still kind of, start to look at other things, roster construction. They have an identity. All right, you look at the weapons that he'll be able to throw to. Okay, you have all these terrific receivers with, I mentioned Chase Claypool. You also have Deontay Johnson. They just drafted 2 receivers. You got George Pickens and little Calvin Austin out of Memphis. So terrific weapons. And then it's like, what, Kenny Pickett, when you do play, and, with all this other stuff, you don't have to throw the ball a ton to all these terrific weapons. We're going to lean a lot on this running back that's in the backfield. We're going to hand the ball out to him a ton. We're going to get the ball out to him in space to catching passes. I think he is set up 100% for the most success out of this quarterback class. Who do you have as your QB1?
You've been talking to Kenny Pickett's mom again? Because I think she convinced you. Because Kenny's good, but if you're going to lean on Najee Harris, if you're going to run the ball that much, that means you cannot make mistakes at the quarterback spot. And I hate to say it, I think Mike Tomlin's going to go with the vet. I don't see Kenny Pickett getting ahead of Trubisky unless Trubisky falls on his face. And I think Tomlin's going to have more patience than Trubisky deserves initially. So the question is, how many games does that actually equate for Kenny Pickett? I don't know if he plays more than 8 games. I don't know if he plays less than that. It feels to me like it's going to be less than that. I agree with you with the weapons, but it's just Like, how can he get on the field? If he's on the field, I agree. He's got a pretty good situation. But I disagree. I don't have him as number one. I have him a little bit farther down the line. For me, I think the guy that has the best opportunity, the best landing spot in this league is Desmond Ritter, because I don't think Marcus Mariota can hold him off. I don't think he should. I think for the sake of the Atlanta Falcons, they need to get Ritter going right now, because they have roughly 17 contests to figure out whether they need to draft a quarterback next year or not. So I think it behooves everybody to get him in the lineup early. And I think that gives him the option to have that kind of faith that I think he'll thrive on. I think that's what Desmond Ritter needs, is faith in him. I think you saw that come along. And I think in having Drake London, yes, it's a rookie wide receiver one. I get that. That is a disadvantage in most places, except for the way that Drake London wins. That does not have anything to do with being a rookie. And I think that he's going to have one of the more spectacular and consistent rookie seasons than we've seen in quite a while, to tell you the truth. Then you come back, they traded for Bryan Edwards, who I think is going to be a nice complement to that. But he's not really the wide receiver two, is he? The wide receiver two is a guy named Kyle Pitts, who might be the best athlete on the field for the Atlanta Falcons. So in the end, I think he's got a two-pronged attack in the pass game. Run game's a little bit iffy. I agree with you. I'd like to see them run in Atlanta as well. But I think
who's their running back? Off the top of your head, who are they turning around and handing the ball off to in Atlanta?
The question to me is, are you going to run straight ahead? Because I don't know who that will be. Is it Damian Williams? Looking at the depth chart, it might be Tyler Algier. The bigger question is, they're going to run all that jet stuff with Cordero Patterson, right? I mean, that's going to be their run game spark, right? But how well is that going to be? It should pull the defense up, and it should allow Desmond Ritter and his play action ability, which I actually really like, to hit in a rhythm and hit those big targets that can help him. So in the end, I think Desmond Ritter's in the best spot organizationally and with the quarterback in front of him. So let's see where the rest of the guys are ranked. We'll do that when we get back.
All right. Well, real quick, before we do go to our break, I want to ask you one last question. Both of these teams, the Atlanta Falcons and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've had somewhat issues on the offensive line. Mm-hmm. And we'll see how much they've done to really help kind of revamp that. But, I mean, the Atlanta Falcons, that offensive line, I mean, it was like all-time poor last season. You know, I really felt bad watching Matt Ryan and him kind of having to run for his life at the age that he is, as opposed to being able to stand in that pocket and deliver. And also we saw Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line not as great as what we've seen over the past few years with Mike Tomlin as the head coach. I think the O-line, for the most part, haven't been good until kind of last year we saw some of that drop-off. So which offensive line do you believe in a little bit more? Because I think that as well, you can kind of tie in some early success as a rookie to offensive line. If you think back, let's say, I don't know, Dak Prescott, right? Mm-hmm. Why was he able to throw 25 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions as a rookie? Well, they had the best offensive line in the league. They leaned on the run game. It's all right. You got to make a throw every once in a while, right? You look at some of the guys that didn't have as much success and why there's so many questions about Trevor Lawrence. Well, he was running for his life. Even though he didn't take a ton of sacks, his clock is sped up. Now you're throwing passes before you want to, and it leads to all kind of other issues, as we've heard from like Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. So when you look at these offensive line situations for these two teams that are trying to revamp it a little bit, who do you think is setting their quarterback up for the most success from that standpoint?
I actually think there's more questions in Pittsburgh, to tell you the truth. I know you need a bounce back year from a couple of guys in Atlanta, but you have Jake Matthews, you have Matt Hennessy, and you have Chris Lindstrom. That feels like 60% of a line that should be able to get through. Can Caleb McGarry come along? I kind of think so. Another season down the line, possibly. Is there a question at the left guard spot? Sure. I get that. But when I look at Pittsburgh's, I think there's more questions there, right? I think Kevin Dotson's solid, but Dan Moore, question. Cole Mason, question to me. I like James Daniels. I think for that scheme, he might be a little underpowered. I have questions about it all working out there. So I actually think the Falcons are in a slightly better position.
All right, we're going to see. I can't wait to kind of, this season can't come fast enough. Just see these different storylines and how they're going to play out. We're going to get to more of that when we come back. We're going to go on with our quarterbacks 2, 3, 4, and we'll see if we can get to 5 as well, with how our rankings are, who's in the best situation. Keep it locked right here for that. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about our people over at BlueNile.com. And you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating a custom engagement ring of her dreams to gifting a classic timeless jewelry piece at all prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. All right, whether you are ready to pop that big question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find a jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Build the engagement ring of her dreams or celebrate life's special moment with fine jewelry. Hopefully, it's not messed up by some guy at Disneyland rushing and taking his job extremely serious, throwing off the whole engagement thing. So maybe don't go up there on that stage that guy tried to do. All right, try a little bit more of a conventional route. But if you are going to do it, you're going to do it with BlueNile.com. No matter what you are looking for, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On NFL Draft listeners get $50 off purchase of $500 or more. All right, this podcast exclusively includes engagement. Again, use Locked On. And if use promo code Locked On, that's promo code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, shipped free, and arrives in a discreet packaging that won't give away that's what's inside, which is that ring. All right, shop stress-free and find your forever piece at BlueNile.com today. And we also want to talk to you about our good folks over at Rock Auto. All right, with the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless, seamless, intimidating questioning for the vehicle that you have and wait while a person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand that they happen to have in their warehouse. All right, you have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. So use it. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. All right, choose to spend 30%, 50%, or even 100% more on the same parts from a chain store or car dealership. Don't do that. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. RockAuto.com prices are reliably low for every customer. All right, they have everything that you need from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and they even have new carpet if you need that as well. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find a solution to your auto part needs. All right, go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck and write Locked On in there. How did you hear about us? So they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Over here at Locked On NFL Draft and Locked On Network, we have an important favor to ask of you. All right, we put together a survey so we can learn more about the listeners and, we want to make your favorite part of Locked On podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you would like, all right, or even don't like about the Locked On podcast. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started. It won't take very long. All right, and everyone that completes this survey, you qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. All right, to take our audience survey, to go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. We want to thank you for your help. QB2. I'll let you start off with this one. Who do you have as that guy that you think is in the next best situation?
For me, it's Matt Corral. Again, I'm emphasizing playing time, ability to get on the field and do what you do, whether you're fully prepared or you have the complement of weapons or whatever. I think Matt Corral's the guy that gets on the field next. And you have DJ Moore, you have Robbie Anderson, and you have, a guy named McCaffrey. As long as he's going to be there, right? There are a whole lot worse places to be.
Right.
And that's the thing. So, I don't think Sam Darnold's really meant to play for that particular staff. I like Sam Darnold. I still feel like somebody just hasn't broken through to him to get him where he needs to be. But I don't think that changes this season. I think in the end, Matt Corral gets playing time probably quicker than Pickett and not as quick as Ritter. So that's why I have him in that spot. What do you think?
I think if we're just talking about this year coming up, I can see that. I just think the issues are, again, how much success is he set up for? And we'll talk about kind of the big picture of things for some of these guys. But the Panthers right now, they have no direction. They don't know what they want to do at the quarterback position. I know they got Matt Corral. Awesome. They also have Sam Darnold. We'll see what they do there. They're not happy about having to keep Sam Darnold around and pay him on that fifth-year option. All right, they totally misjudged that situation. They didn't go out and get a veteran. I was curious to see would they go after a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo or a guy like Baker Mayfield to really help this situation because, like you said, you got the weapons there. You got receivers. I mean, there's a guy you didn't even mention, Terrace Marshall out of LSU,
Right.
who was drafted the previous year. That's another solid receiver that they have on top of the other weapons. Now, obviously, rebuild that offensive line. They went O-line early in the draft. So is Sam Darnold the guy? That's what we're going to have to try to find out. I don't think so. And I also believe that I don't know if their head coach is the guy. And I think after this year, after a down year, he's going to be out of there. So how much success does that set up the young guy for? And when we see him, right, if he plays this year, that probably means that, he didn't just beat out Sam Darnold. That probably means a lot of things around him is just terrible. And I think that it'll still be a really bad situation for him. So I like Matt Corral being able to play. I just don't know if it's the best of situations. But I will tell you a guy who I do think, and we got to see if he's going to play. But if he does, I think he's going to do just fine. And that guy that I'm talking about is Malik Willis.
Your QB1.
Right? My QB1, all right? But again, right, in this exercise, he's my QB2. We're talking about a guy who, when you got Derrick Henry in your backfield, that's a good situation. I think overall, the thing that makes me the most confident and bullish on just that organization, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, you got Ryan Tannehill there. That's a tough thing. Will he be able to get on the field? But if he does, I mean, Vrabel, I think he's one of the better, bright coaches in the NFL. I think he gives that stability that I'm looking for, and just that structurally organizational aspect to be able to set these young guys up for success. Like, that's my biggest thing. And when you have a head coach like him who just gets it, right? We're talking about he won a playoff game with Marcus Mariota throwing a touchdown to himself. All right, so he's been in situations where he's able to get the most out of a guy. And will Malik Willis play right away? I think most people would say no. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, they're just not happy with what they've seen from Ryan Tannehill. And it's just been way too average. I know they were the number one team in the AFC last year. That was a surprise to a lot of people because when you watch the games, it just didn't look like that. Now, Malik Willis, when he does get on that field, and hopefully, it would be nice to see him year one, he is handing the ball off to Derrick Henry, who you can give the ball to 20 times a game. They probably want to tone down on the overall numbers of what they've been doing. His body's starting to break down just a little bit. Had the foot injury, and we know kind of running backs, they fall off that hill quick. So right now, while he's still, running the ball and running strong, you got Malik Willis handing the ball off to him. You got the play action. I really like what they did with Treylon Burks, getting a nice run after catch option like that you can throw the ball downfield to. And he's a terrific contested catch guy as well. You got Robert Woods that they traded for from the LA Rams. I think this is a team that understands exactly what their identity is, who they are. I think get that defense back on track, playing at that high level that they know it can play at. I think that is definitely the second best situation for any quarterback if he can get on the field. And I know that's the big question. Will he get on the field as rookie? I think most people with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback will lean towards no. But I think overall, if he does, for a guy who, has to still, they're saying has to develop certain levels of his quarterbacking and things like that, he's set up for the most success or second most success to be able to come in and play right away and have that success.
Yeah, for the support, absolutely. But I think it comes back to exactly what you said. I don't think Mike Vrabel pulls the plug on Tannehill unless there's a significant reason. Especially if there's an injury, I think it happens obviously quickly. But I much like Tomlin, and that's why I have in this grouping, I have your top two as my 3 and 4, in Pickett at 3 and Willis at 4, because I just think both their head coaches are going to have to be pulled away from sticking with their veteran unless they have to. Both those guys, I think, want the security, want the leadership, want the understanding. Even if the athleticism, the power, the playmaking ability isn't the same, I think they want the stability more. And I think that's, in the end, what limits Willis and Pickett. So they're my 3 and 4. And 5th, we probably need to talk about, we could probably push talking about careers till tomorrow. Why don't we do that? But I know we're running long already, but so those are mine. You've named all of my players. Who is 3 and 4 for you are Willis, and then who?
Well, Willis is 2, Desmond Ritter 3. For a lot of reasons that you mentioned. And I think this is a guy, when you talk about understanding how to conduct yourself, to be a professional, a guy that spent a lot of time at Cincinnati, stayed for that last year, played, won a lot of games. He might be the all-time winning quarterback in Cincinnati history, if not even across the NFL, because he won a lot of games there at Cincinnati. Talking about a guy who was able to kind of carry an organization, a program that hasn't been looked at as elite to the point where they got to play in a college football playoff game. And I mean, how many of those guys went off to the Senior Bowl? I mean, it felt like it was every time you looked, there was a guy from Cincinnati playing in the Senior Bowl. So a lot of talent there, but I think a lot of it was elevated by the play of Desmond Ritter. Now, he has his ups and downs with his accuracy, and we'll see if he can start to get a little bit better on that. But we know he has the playmaking ability. So a guy that has to play in Atlanta and maybe behind the offensive line that's not as great, I think his skill set sets him up to be able to do that as long as he can just be a little bit more consistent with his accuracy. But I really like the playmaking ability. So that's my number 3 guy. And then my number 4 guy, Matt Corral. We'll see. But I think I'm going to go in a different direction here. And I'm going to.
Let's do that after then.
All right.
Because I need to hear it all.
We'll do that when we come back. All right, first I want to talk to you a little bit about betonline.net and how it's your number one source for all of your betting, stats, and sports information. Find all the latest sports developments, news, odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL conference finals, Major League Baseball, and, of course, all the latest fighting news and MMA and UFC and boxing. Listen, I just got back from Vegas today, and I had an amazing time. Went to the sports betting book. Shouldn't have did that. Should have went to betonline.net because there's just more props, more things you can do. They have a few little props over there at the sports books, but nothing like BetOnline. All right, BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live bets, esports, and more. Head over right now to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action going on at BetOnline, where the game starts. So let's talk about our last guy here. All right, and we're at 5. We are talking about a guy in Sam Howell, who potentially can kind of get on the field right now. Bailey Zappi.
Hey, we agree on one.
Bailey Zappi, I get it. Like, he's playing for the Patriots. Mac Jones is their guy. But again, we start talking about that organizational structure. And Zappi, who is the all-time leading passer in college football history. Over one season, right? I mean, he could sling it coming from D2 ranks to playing at Western Kentucky. You got 2 guys there where we'll see. I don't know why Sam Howell dropped as much as he did. This is a guy who is projected to be potentially a top 10 pick in the 2022 class. Falls all the way down. The Washington Commanders are able to get him late. You have Carson Wentz there. Do you think that there's any way? I think because it feels like a lot of people are really low on Carson Wentz. But do you see some kind of like potential battle there? In the sense of, okay, somehow if you can come in and do certain things and carry yourself and conduct yourself a certain way, maybe they'll be willing to move off of it. You got Ron Rivera. I think he's kind of on the hot seat a little bit. He has to win right now. Is there any way that Sam Howell can show, yeah, you know what, I can be that guy? And if you can, obviously this is a guy who might kind of shoot up in some of the rankings.
We need to go through that because I want to hear more about what you had to say about Wentz, but I will give you the short answer. No, there's no way Sam Howell is in this competition. No, they will ride with Wentz until they have to stop, and then they'll go with Heineke because they trust him, because he's won ball games for him. There is no way around it. Sam Howell is not in a position to help this team, and he will not be as a rookie, period.
Now, do you think he will?
Tired of it.
I mean, at any point, right? Because, I mean, clearly you're hearing about this a lot, and a lot of people think, oh, Carson Wentz. First of all, are people just too down on Carson Wentz? I mean, this is a guy who had 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year. Obviously, I mean, like getting stomped out by Jacksonville Jaguars and missing the playoffs, that's not ideal. Then you get traded away, and then you have an owner kind of bad talking you a little bit, right? And now he goes to Washington, right? He goes to Washington, and they're trying to say, okay, no, okay, it didn't work out in Indianapolis, but it's going to work out here. Do you believe that?
No, I think people are way too low on him because all those things you just mentioned, they are a franchise in complete disarray. Ron Rivera has to ride with somebody that he feels can right his ship and at least hold it down. And there are only 2 candidates for that. It is Wentz that they feel is partially an upgrade. I'm not sure I believe that either. And they have Heineke, 2 guys that they feel can run the offense, can lock that part down and be their instrument on the field. Not to mention they made the investment in Wentz. There's no way you put both of those guys aside for a rookie unless both those quarterbacks are hurt. It just can't happen because the whole franchise will circle the drain if that is what ends up going on.
I think this is going to be something really fun and a really fun exercise to see how these guys do. On tomorrow's episode, we're going to dive back into this and start talking about these guys, like just their careers, the outlook on their careers, who's going to have the most success over time, because we can look at where they're at right now and see, okay, well, this fits this guy, or this fits that guy, right? And this is an ideal situation. But overall, who's going to have the best long-term career out of all of these quarterbacks that we mentioned today? We're going to get into all that and more. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. But for your second listen and third listen of the day, you got Locked On Chiefs with Ryan Tracy. You got Locked On 49ers with myself and my co-host, Brian Peacock. And if you want to follow us on social media, at Eric_Crocker on Twitter, at Ryan Tracy NFL. Tune into everything that we have going on over there. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's there. We're posting these videos. If you're tired of listening to the audio version, we are live on YouTube, so you can see our mugs and comment, get a reaction, all that good stuff. But that's going to do it for this episode. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.